had to stand up on a box so I'd be tall enough to hug Roseanne and see you. Thank you very much for the step. Barbara took hers with her. So I am very grateful. I'm actually having a great time here tonight. You know, it's so much fun and it's raucous from the time we walked in the room with the music. You know, it's a party. And it ought to be a party. We ought to celebrate ourselves. And so I'm very, very, very happy tonight to be celebrated by you, because there's no better thing than to be honored by the honorable and praised by the praiseworthy. And that's exactly what I feel like here tonight. So thank you for that. It's been quite a week. This was a wild mood swing kind of week. In California, at least. On Tuesday, the Capitol in Sacramento, I can't express it any other way. It was just, there wasn't a person in Sacramento who wasn't grinning from ear to ear as Karen Bass was sworn in as the Speaker of the Assembly. People were lining the hallways. There was such joy in the building. That was Tuesday. Wednesday, the governor did the May revise of the budget, which totally screws every poor person you've ever heard of in your life, cuts health care, doesn't save education, don't believe what he says. It's not the same budget. They just use a different formula and give the schools less and call it the same. It is a tragedy. So we had a high on Tuesday. We had a low on Wednesday. Thursday morning, we know the Supreme Court is supposed to come out with some decision about gay marriages at 10 a.m. And we're sitting on the floor of the Senate. I'm looking at my computer. We're not actually supposed to do our email on the floor, but we're all on the internet, you know, trying to figure out what the hell's going to happen. And one by one, my Democratic colleagues started gathering around my desk. We were all looking at the screen like, if we could just focus on it hard enough, everything would come out okay. And at 10 o'clock, the opinion came up. But of course, Ron George's opinion was 121 pages long, and you can't page through them, you know. So we're standing there going, I don't know, did we win, did we lose, or whatever. We finally get to the end of it. We realize that not only was gay marriage upheld in the state, but the opinion, how many attorneys here in the room? 150,000. The opinion went much further than just marriage. It said that sexual orientation was a suspect classification, the highest scrutiny that you can give anything for equal protection. It was the first time in the country that's ever happened. It was an absolutely amazing, eloquent, beautiful, beautifully written opinion. So, Tuesday we're up, Wednesday we're down. Thursday we're up, then I hear Ted Kennedy's had seizures. I'm depressed about that, down. Then I come to this dinner, up. So it's kind of like my relationship with Jamie Court. I love Jamie, and he loves me on Tuesday, then on Wednesday, you know. But I love this organization, and I have to thank Roseanne and the nurses for their love, because I love them right back. I heard a quote at a dinner at the Liberty Hill Foundation dinner the other night that really struck me. I'm not sure I fully grasp it yet, but I want to share it with you. It was a quote, one of the awardees used this quote, and it was something said by a Lutheran pastor who was part of the conspiracy to assassinate Adolf Hitler, which failed, and this gentleman, along with the co-conspirators, were killed. And what he said was, if the train you're on is headed in the wrong direction, running backwards in the aisle doesn't help. And I'll give that to you because I think you're probably going to use it the same way I am. I tried to figure out, what does that actually mean in terms of the work we do? And I think taking a page from Consumer Watchdog, taking a page from the consumer attorneys, taking a page from the 501c3s represented here in the room, and most especially taking a whole book from the California Nurses Association, it means that you have got to stop the train. You have got to get off the train. You have got to turn the train around. It's hard. All of us who've ever traveled by train knows that if it's headed in the wrong direction, and we certainly know that this country's train has for a long time been headed in the wrong direction. But because of this work that we get to do, and there's no greater privilege than being an elected official in this state. There's no greater privilege than being at the table. I was the first gay or lesbian person elected to the state legislature, and I had no idea what to expect. I thought, we'd never even won a primary, much less winning an election. And I went up, and the very first day I was there for the Democratic caucus, Antonio Villaraigosa, Kevin Murray, John Burton, bless his heart, who never can sit long enough to stay at a dinner. I hope you know this, but he was my seatmate when I was first elected. That was a great experience. The three of them, Barbara Friedman, so many other people, Barbara Lee, who was still in the state assembly, came over to me and said, look, we don't want you to have to eat lunch by yourself, so we're the honorary gay and lesbian caucus. And that's really what it's been like. It has been so emotional. This is the most emotional, personal, intimate job I've ever had. I know when my colleagues are in the hospital. I know when their parents die. I know when they have a sick child. When my father died, Pete Knight was the first person to walk across the room and tell me he was sorry. Pete Knight, who doesn't even think gay and lesbian people are human. I don't mean this as a joke. I mean it's a very engaging job. Very much like when we heard from Herb. You can tell doing litigation is not a dry job. And as he said, what happens in the courtroom really counts. We certainly saw that on Thursday. But when I get to work with people of heart, people of courage, people with brains, it's going to sound like the Wizard of Oz in a minute. brains and heart and courage. Well, it is the basic story, right? Then there's no way that we're not going to get home again. There, I brought it home, right? Thank you so much for this award. Keep up the good work.